From the studios of Books in Motion, this is Rebecca Rogers reading The Waking of the Nightmares, Phantasmic Wars, Book 3, by L. Hawley. Now let's begin with Chapter 1. Sharice gasped, her thick black hair swinging slightly in its tightly tied braids, and her dark brown eyes narrowing. She grasped at the binoculars dangling around her neck and raised them to her face. "It's beautiful," she whispered, widening her eyes to see the shape of the crinkle-backed snapblaster through the magnified lenses of the binoculars pressed against her eye sockets. "Look at those perfectly pink crinkles on its back." She lifted the chain of the binoculars over her head and shoved the field glasses toward Sir Winkleston, a mustachioed old gentleman standing to her left. He obligingly gazed through them, then lowered his hands to glance at Sharice, his eyes dancing in excitement.
"Yep,"
he said, grunting appreciatively, lifting the binoculars to his face for another look.
"She's a beaut, all right."
One would think Sharice, a practical, spunky 10-year-old, wouldn't give two shakes about something so obviously made up as a crinkle-backed snapblaster. At least, one might think that, if one didn't know Sharice was, in fact, on an important mission to explore the previously uncharted area deep in the hidden jungle of Phantasmagoria, with the end goal of renaming it the not-so-hidden jungle of Phantasmagoria, as per the king's special request. It should be noted, as this is Phantasmagoria, the world of imagination and dreams, and its design was inspired by Sharice's imagination, that the term jungle is used loosely here. The jungle Sharice was currently adventuring through with her crew could best be described as a random mix of trees grouped together. Pine trees stood next to palm, which were clustered around oaks, maples, and other deciduous varieties. All the trees were ones Sharice knew from her childhood home in Minnesota, plus a few tropical ones thrown in for good measure. Against this rich green background, the crinkle-backed snapblaster's pink crinkles stood out in stark contrast. However, though the creature's coloring was bright, finding a crinkle-backed snapblaster while traveling and mapping the forest was an added bonus, as they are shy creatures and often hide at any sign of trouble.
"I didn't know they could be found this far south,"
Sir Winkleston said as he handed Sharice her binoculars. "Me neither," she replied, looping the chain around her neck and letting the binoculars fall, bumping gently against her stomach. She pulled her journal out of her brown bag and scratched a few notes into it, as well as a rough sketch of the crinkle-backed snapblaster. Pausing, she bit her lip and wiped some sweat off her forehead with the back of her hand before outlining the crinkles on the back of the crinkle-backed snapblaster in her journal. The beast reminded her of a mix between a stegosaurus and a deer, but with sunset orange feathers covering its body. The crinkles on its back were similar to the plates on a stegosaurus's back, and she made a note in her journal that perhaps the crinkle-backed snapblaster used its crinkles the same way a stegosaurus is theorized to have used its plates for regulating its body temperature. Sir Winkleston peered over her shoulder as she worked.
"That's a good likeness of the beast,"
he said. Sharice smiled, happy for the praise. Most of her sketches remained hidden in the pages of her journal, meant for her eyes only, but for a hurried drawing, she felt she had accurately captured the doe-like grace of the crinkle-backed snapblaster. The subject of her drawing bent its head to pull up some of the lush grasses blanketing the meadow. Engrossed in her drawing, her brows furrowed when she glanced up and saw the beast raise its orange-feathered head and noiselessly bolt out of the clearing and into the tangled mess of trees in the distance. What? It was then she heard the cracking, smashing, and stomping of the rest of the explorers on her expedition. She sighed, putting her pencil down. She should have figured. "Did we miss anything?" a girl named Katie asked Sharice. Her face, Sharice noted, was red and sweaty. "We tried to catch up as fast as we could, but Tom—" She glared at the 11-year-old.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?